What's going on YouTube? So Mercedes is of course known for having a very expansive lineup of vehicles at all different sizes. And today we're standing next to one of their smaller and more affordable SUVs, the GLB. Mimicking the styling of its big brother, the G-Wagon, the GLB has offered great space while sporting Mercedes' classic boxy design look. But in the crowded luxury SUV segment, how does the GLB stand up against the competition? Let's go ahead and find out. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the exterior styling right off the bat, of course. The GLB really has, the exterior styling really is kind of one of the things that really stands out about the GLB because it has a boxy design and most of its competition does not have a boxy design. They go for a more streamlined look. So up here in the front, you're going to notice a nice upright front fascia, a large grille. This is kind of the classic Mercedes look, but we do have a little bit of a tougher design because we've got 4 different bars that run through here with the little accents. Of course, you can make this look a little bit sportier if you go for the AMG model. That's going to give you that AMG grille. But otherwise, most of the models are going to look just like this one. Now let's also talk about the headlights. Of course, being a Mercedes, you are going to have standard LED headlights. That's what you're looking at right here. So you have a projector LED low beam. It's actually going to be a reflector LED high beam. And then you've got the daytime running light and turn signals kind of wrapping around. You can get a fancier LED arrangement if you want to have that with adaptive abilities as an option. And then down below you will find your LED fog lamps as well. Now as we move around to the side of the GLB, we come to our wheel options. Of course, you got a lot of different choices. This is actually the standard 18-inch alloy. As you can see, it's got kind of a plain silver design. You can get lots more expressive options if you so desire. You can even go up to 21-inch alloys if you choose that 35 AMG model. And then as we come up here to the mirrors, you will find standard heating as well as standard blind spot monitoring on all GLBs. If you choose the premium package, that's going to give you the other 2 features that you're missing, which is power folding as well as auto dimming abilities.
All right, so here at the side of the GLB is where you're going to notice the boxy design the most. As you can see, they really have squared off a lot of different elements in an effort to make this look somewhat kind of like that G-Wagon, the pinnacle Mercedes SUV. And I do like the way it looks, and apparently a lot of Americans like the way it looks as well because this has been selling pretty well since it came out. Now, as far as some of the individual design elements, you will notice we have the blacked out wheel arches on this model. We also have some chrome window surrounds in the very square shape, although you do have a little bit of a design swoop there. We also have some big roof rails up at the top. Now, moving around to the rear design, nothing is going to change for 2022 in terms of the overall look of it. As a matter of fact, one of the main changes for 2022 is a new paint color called rose gold. That's an interesting color if you're interested in making your car look like your iPhone. And as far as the rear design itself, we do have a rear wiper up here at the top. And then if we break down some of the other design elements, these taillights are going to be reminiscent of what you see on other Mercedes SUVs like the GLC. They're going to be full LED, although they have a little bit more of a boxy shape than some of the other Mercedes SUVs. Dropping down to the lower area, you will notice that we have some more matte black plastic. And then at the very bottom, we do have some chrome trim to kind of spice up the design. We're also going to have dual integrated exhaust outlets, and you would have a slightly sportier design if you go for the AMG versions. Now for your safety systems, Mercedes-Benz is only going to include one of those as standard equipment on every single GLB. That's going to be forward emergency braking. If you want some of the other more advanced safety systems, you will have to add the driver's assistance package, which will further throw in your lane keeping assist, your auto high beams, and your adaptive cruise control systems. Now as far as your warranty is concerned, you're looking at a basic and powertrain warranty of 4-year, 50,000 miles. Well guys, that wraps up the changes on the outside for 2022. As you can tell, there weren't many. Now let's go ahead and see on the inside and see if there are changes in there before we take it out in a test drive.
So as you probably saw on the outside, there was a storm coming and that storm has arrived. So I went ahead and got inside of the cabin here to talk about this GLB. Of course, no significant design changes this year since this is a pretty fresh model. And we'll go ahead and start off by talking about your different interior color and material choices. Or actually, I should rather go ahead and show you the key first. This is the typical Mercedes key fob. You got the real metal trim down there at the bottom. Since this is the 250 model, we just have the matte finish on here. You would get the gloss black AMG key fob if you went for the 35 AMG. Now, returning back to those colors and materials. This is the standard MB Tech synthetic leather. You've got the choice between this black, macchiato, or a Neva Gray contrast option. There is no color contrast stitching or anything, so this is a relatively basic looking seat. However, you can upgrade to real leather. That's going to give you some additional color options, including the one that's my favorite, which is the two-tone black and red option. Now, one of the interesting things to talk about today is the fact that we actually have full manual seats on board with this, including the driver's seat. That is because of the COVID chip shortage. Certain features have had to be deleted, and on this particular model we got $700 to go to full manual seats, but it's certainly very weird to see that a Mercedes that doesn't have the power seats over here on the door trim itself. Now, speaking of the door trim, let's go ahead and talk about that if you can hear me over the rain. We do have a nice leather padding here across the armrest with the stitching detail, and a soft touch plastic along the top, again with the stitching detail. This particular model has what's known as spiral trim, and then we do have the optional heated seats for about $500. You can get seat ventilation as well. All four of the windows will be one-touch automatic. Heading across the upper dashboard here, it is going to be a soft touch plastic, no stitching details, and then we've got the spiral trim, piano black, and a faux aluminum accent through there with your 3 prominent vents. And then, of course, down here in the center console, we got those same materials once again. No padding or anything like that, but everything does fit together nicely. Now start it up, put your foot on the brake, and press the standard button. And after you start it up, the first thing you'll be greeted with is this gauge cluster. So we have the optional dual 10.25-inch display setup. You can actually get a standard equipment, rather it's going to be a 7-inch display on both of these with really thick bezels. However, I've never seen one equipped like that. The vast majority will come with the premium package, which includes the dual 10.25-inch displays. This gauge cluster, really nice looking, very vivid, very crisp graphics, fully reconfigurable. You can adjust all the things right there in your steering wheel settings. The windshield wipers are going to be rain sensing on this model. As we pull back to the steering wheel, we've got that traditional Mercedes design here, nicely leather wrapped, silver accents. Again, you've got some of those touch capacitive buttons. This side is for the gauge cluster, this side is for the main infotainment system. The wheel itself is going to be manual tilt and telescoping. We also have the optional steering wheel heating on this example. Let's go ahead and dig into interior storage next. We'll turn over here to our console. We'll take a look in there first. Pretty nicely sized storage bin. It goes down relatively deep. It's a little narrow, but we do have a felt lining on all the sides, and we also have a USB-C connection inside. We've got this little stick here to hold up your hand when you use that control pad. We also have our 2 cup holders right there. They are adjustable in size, and then you have another large storage cubby up there for your cell phone. It does have a rubber lining inside of it. Wireless charging is available, though we don't have it on this example, and we also have 2 connections right there. Now, of course, this console is completely free of a shifter, which allows for you to maximize your storage. In typical Mercedes fashion, the shifter is up here on the steering wheel column. So you're just going to push down for drive. You do have paddle shifters on the steering wheel, standard equipment, and press up for reverse. When you go into reverse, you will have a standard backup camera, of course, with active trajectory, but we do have the optional surround view camera system on today's example. That gives you that overhead view and the ability to change between several different views, including a side view, so that you don't scrape your rims. Then for park, you're just going to press the P right there on the end of the stalk, and you do have an electronic parking brake. Now we're turning back down to this area. We've got a lot of different buttons. One of those things will be our volume knob. So this being a more basic unit, of course, we do have the standard sound system. Mercedes wasn't specific about how many speakers or watts this version has. but you can get an optional 510 watt 12 speaker Burmester sound system as well. But let's go ahead and give this standard version a sample. So overall sound quality of this system is actually pretty good. Definitely enough bass and noise to fill up the cabin pretty well. Let's move on to our climate controls next. So we do have this nice row of physical controls for the standard dual zone automatic climate control setup. You can adjust the temperature right there, just as easy as that. Nice middle toggle. When you make these adjustments, one of the neat things about the ambient lighting in this vehicle, which I'll go ahead and kind of pan around and show you some of that because it's very visible on a dark day like this. We have the optional 64 color ambient lighting. So right now I'm on this deep ocean blue, which really stands out. Looks super nice. You've got, again, 64 colors that you can choose between, all different types of customizations. But again, going back to the climate control, when you make the adjustment as you go up hotter, it's going to turn the vent red. You go down lower, it's going to turn the vent blue to give you that feedback of what you're making the adjustments, as well as, of course, it appears up there in the display. Now, talking about the display itself, this is the 10.25 inch display. Like I mentioned earlier, we are running the latest version of the MBUX system. Inside of this system, you do have a lot of different options, including your built-in navigation system. This is a more basic version, again, like I said, so we don't have the augmented reality navigation system on board with today's example, but it is available. Also, since this is not the very, very latest version of the MBUX system, that does mean we don't have wireless Android Auto or wireless Apple CarPlay. Those are just now rolling out into some of the newest models like the EQS as well as the S-Class. Now, rising up from that, we do have an auto dimming mirror. We've got the optional HomeLink universal remotes built into the bottom of it as well. Coming up top here, we have LED lighting. And then on the roof, we've got the available dual panel panoramic sunroof. This is a $1,500 option on this model. As you can see, this front panel is very large. It does also open up as well. I'm not going to do that today for obvious reasons.
All right, come on back here and join me in the GLB's rear seat. Now, I have to say, back here you would definitely not expect to have this much space out of something in this segment of vehicle because there's just a lot of it. It feels very just open and airy. As far as your legroom figures, you're looking at 38.1 inches of legroom, 39.3 inches of headroom, which honestly, that's probably the more impressive figure because there's just a lot of space and that boxy design allows for that. It's actually a little bit more space than what you get in the GLC, and it's several inches larger than the vast majority of the competition space-wise. There's one caveat to that, though, and I will mention that in just a second. We have the third row option, so we'll talk about that in just a second, and that does reduce your second row legroom down to 36.9 inches. So it's a little bit less space on this particular tester right here. But let's go ahead and talk about the features first before we check out that third row. Here in the center, we are going to have standard vents on every single GLB model. If we drop down below that, we have this little hole right here. I assume this could possibly be maybe 3-zone climate on the higher end models. I'm not sure about that. If we drop down below that, though, we have a household style outlet. We also have 2 USB-C ports. You can slide the seats themselves forward and back, and you can also recline them a little bit just by grabbing that little lever right there. Here's your fold down armrest here in the middle. You have 2 pop-out cup holders inside. I do want to point out heated rear seats are unavailable on the GLB. And then if you look at your door trim, it's going to be mostly made of leatherette, so I'm pretty impressed by this. All the upper area is leatherette with stitching details. All of your armrest portion is leatherette as well. And then you do have the nice grab handle. Down below that, we have some bottle storage as well. But let's go ahead and check out that third row because it's a pretty interesting feature to have in a segment like this. All right, guys, I did say this has a third row, and that was not a Speako or anything because it's back here. You can see it. This is an $850 option on the GLB. I'm honestly surprised that Mercedes offers it, but it is a unique feature to have within this segment in case you need like an emergency or you need 2 more people or whatever. It's not going to be like super comfortable like a Escalade or something in the 3rd row, but I'll try and get back here and show you guys what it looks like. The seat doesn't have any special folding mechanisms or anything, so you kind of have to slide it forward and then kind of fold the seat down best you can. Oh, okay. Well, guys, hopefully I didn't lose my audio gear. I guess it's a good demonstration of what I mean by emergency use only. I'd say it's probably for like really, really small people. Definitely don't expect to fit 2 grown adults back here in any way, shape, or form unless they're like one of those people that can put their legs above their head, because it's not going to be very comfortable. But it is only an $850 option, so that is worth noting. Now, walking up to your tailgate, Mercedes is throwing in a power tailgate as standard equipment on every single GLB. You do also have the hands-free functions as well. The button is right under the lid if you just want to pop it up manually. And let's talk about the cargo capacity, because this GLB actually does have quite a bit of space, more than you would expect out of something within this segment of vehicle. With the 3rd row up, this is pretty comical, the amount of space back here. Like I mentioned, this is not designed to have a 3rd row, but they do offer it in case you need that emergency 3rd row. You have a 5 cubic feet of cargo capacity behind the 3rd row if you want to leave it up. If you want to fold that down, you can do so easily by just grabbing these little red straps. That folds it completely down. As far as behind the 2nd row, you're looking at 24 cubic feet of cargo capacity, and then with all the seats folded down, you're looking at 56.7 cubic feet, which is a really good figure for this segment of vehicle. Like I mentioned, this is one of the larger offerings in the segment. Now, I do want to point out the 2nd row does fold to 40-20-40 split, so that's a nice thing that German cars typically will include. Then we also have some lighting here on the side. Then if we lift up of the cargo floor, there's a little bit of additional space back here, and then we have our cargo cover right there underneath the floor. Well, guys, you've seen the driver's seat at this point, so you're probably not going to be too surprised that you have a manually adjusting passenger seat. It's really funny to have that on a Mercedes-Benz. Do note, though, it's just because of COVID part shortages. Then if we open up the glove box here, we do have a really good sized glove box. This is absolutely massive. It's nice and square, just like the rest of this vehicle, and you fit all you need in there, including our signature coupon test. Up top, we have a mirror. We have some lighting as well. We can also detach the visor. However, Mercedes does not include an extension.
So there's a little acceleration in the GLB 250.
Yeah, quite spunky.
Yeah. It's always had a very spunky 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, 221 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 is not going to blow you away or anything. It's going to be a little below, I would say, 7 seconds, based on what Mercedes has said and based on what I'm feeling. But, yeah. The torque, I think, is really what I notice, is it feels very strong off the line.
Yeah, for sure.
Very strong.
And also, one thing I want to note about it is that it's also a very refined 2-liter engine, too. When you put your foot down, those pretty hard accelerations there, it doesn't feel strained or anything like a lot of vehicles can. Under a lot of pressure, it just feels very refined and very premium, which is something you don't find all that often within this segment. Now, of course, they do offer the GLA 35 AMG for those of you that crave a lot more power and some performance bits. That's going to have a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder as well, but it's going to be an AMG enhanced one. You're going to have 302 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque for that motor.
Let's talk about the other aspect of the powertrain. That's going to be your transmission, of course. So on board with this is an 8-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. I really like that they've done a dual-clutch with this because they really blast off lightning-fast shifts. You can just tell bam, bam, bam. It's no hesitation at all when you change throttle response, when you get going. And around town, it's also very smooth as well. And then, in terms of your drivetrain situation, front-wheel drive is standard, available 4MATIC all-wheel drive, which is what most of them are going to have.
Yeah. And that does mean that you're going to have 2 fuel economies for the 250 model. So the front-wheel drive is going to be coming in at 26 miles a gallon combined, and all-wheel drive is also 26 miles a gallon combined. It's only going to lose 1 mpg on the highway. It's going to be rated at 23, 30, 26. So really, probably should just get all-wheel drive unless you really just don't need it. It is worth noting, though, that you do require premium fuel for this model, so that's going to hurt a little bit more at the pump, especially nowadays.
Right. But as far as the 4MATIC all-wheel drive, that's a good example of why you might want it. Here in just, some rain, if you were front-wheel drive only and you accelerate really hard, you're going to lose grip, but that's not happening at all, even with harder accelerations here in the rain today with the 4MATIC all-wheel drive system.
Alrighty, guys, and let's go ahead and kick off our signature airball and slam dunk for the GLB. So Drew will kick us off with the slam dunk, and I'll talk about the airball.
Slam dunk is that even though this is a subcompact crossover, these are known to be, very tight, small crossovers. It feels so much bigger than what the exterior dimensions would indicate. Just this boxy shape just gives you a very airy and spacious feeling cabin, plenty of storage, and a good amount of space in the back. So that's certainly a reason that you might choose the GLB over a lot of the competition, which are going to feel way more cramped.
Yeah. And I guess going along with that would be our airball. It's going to be the price. This GLB is not exactly cheap for the segment, and a lot of them top out around like $45, fully loaded up. This one's going to be quite a bit pricier. You're looking at almost GLC type of price for this GLB, and there's a lot of options that you can tack on, so you can really make this as expensive as you want. A 35 AMG can be well above $60,000 if you want. Now, as far as this one, we do have the 250 4MATIC, which starts at $40,600. That GLB 35 is going to start just a hair under $50,000, and then this particular tester, as equipped, is going to have quite a few options, but by definitely not all of them. Plus a destination of $1,050 is going to bring us to $48,455, including the $700 credit for these missing power seats. And before we wrap up this review, I do want to talk about your ride quality for the GLB. Now that we're just kind of cruising a little bit, I want to mention that it does have really, really good ride quality. I'm impressed by it. I will say we're just in a GLB with a larger 21-inch wheels. That definitely impacts your ride quality, so if you want the best, suggest sticking with one of the smaller wheel options like what we have today. You can actually get an adaptive suspension available for $900, but overall the ride quality is really good. It seems relatively quiet. We won't really be able to get a sound level reading today. It's raining anyway, so it would be very inaccurate.
Totally ruined.
So that's an unfortunate thing with the weather, but overall the ride quality is really good. I will mention, though, the seats are a little firm. I don't know if Drew mentioned that on the interior, but the seats are pretty firm. I would like them to be a little bit softer, so the ride quality with the big wheels, that's something to keep in mind.
But overall, the GLB's boxy shape and unique design continue to make it a strong choice in the subcompact luxury crossover segment.
Well, guys, thanks so much for watching this in-depth review of the 2022 Mercedes GLB 250. If you enjoyed watching this video, please hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already. It truly helps us out and allows us to have access to better cars to show you all cooler stuff on our channel. So please go ahead and do that. Tell a friend, tell a family member. Also follow us on TikTok and Instagram, where we have shorter forms of content. And we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.